Emotions are powerful. They are the colors of our human experience. They make life vibrant. But if we are not careful, they can also take control of us, dictate our choices, and sometimes lead us to places we never intended to go. To live a truly empowered life, you must learn how to control your emotions instead of letting them control you. Because every time you let anger decide, every time you let fear hold you back, every time you let sadness keep you stuck, you are handing over the steering wheel of your life to something temporary, something fleeting, something that doesn't define the real you. Controlling your emotions does not mean you deny them. It does not mean you pretend they do not exist. It means you recognize them, you honor them, but you don't let them own you. When anger rises, pause. Give yourself the gift of silence before you react, because in that space between impulse and response lies your freedom. When fear whispers that you're not good enough, you stand taller, you remember who you are, and you answer back with courage. When sadness tries to drown your spirit, remind yourself that no storm lasts forever, and the sun always comes again. The truth is, emotions are signals, not shackles. They come to teach you something, not to control you. Anger may be telling you that your boundaries need protection. Fear may be telling you that growth is calling you to a higher level. Sadness may be telling you that something valuable mattered deeply. But once you've received the message, you don't have to stay in that state. You can choose. And that choice is your power. Control begins with awareness. Most people let emotions drive them because they aren't even aware of what they're feeling until it's too late. Train yourself to check in, to notice, to name what you feel. Because when you name it, you claim it, and when you claim it, you can change it. Mastery begins when you realize that your emotions are your servants, not your masters. Think about the strongest leaders, the most successful people, the ones who inspire you. They are not without emotions. They feel deeply. But what makes them powerful is that they do not let emotions cloud their judgment or sabotage their vision. They feel, but they also choose. They use their emotions as fuel, not chains. That is what separates those who rise from those who stay stuck. And here's the secret: the more you learn to control your emotions, the more freedom you actually gain. Because then, no insult can shake you, no fear can stop you, no rejection can break you. You become unshakable, grounded, steady like a tree rooted in strength. Imagine walking into every room with that kind of power, that kind of peace, knowing that nothing outside of you has the authority to control what is inside of you. This is not an overnight practice. It is a lifelong journey. But every day that you choose to respond with wisdom instead of react with impulse, every time you choose peace over chaos, every time you choose strength over weakness, you are building the muscles of emotional mastery. And when you master your emotions, you master your life. So, the next time anger burns hot, the next time fear creeps in, the next time sadness feels heavy, remember this: you are not your emotions. You are the one who experiences them. You are greater than your anger, stronger than your fear, brighter than your sadness. Control your emotions, and you will unlock a life of freedom, power, and unshakable strength. When it comes to controlling your emotions, one of the most important key points is learning the power of pausing before you react. That small moment, that tiny space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond, is the place where your destiny is shaped. Most people live their lives as if they have no control over that space. Someone says something hurtful, and they immediately snap back with anger. A challenge appears, and they immediately collapse into fear. A disappointment arrives, and they instantly fall into despair. But the truth is, if you can train yourself to pause in that moment, to breathe, to step back from the raw intensity of what you're feeling, you create the possibility of a different choice. You create the possibility of strength instead of weakness, wisdom instead of impulse, growth instead of regret. Think about it: how many relationships are broken, how many opportunities are lost, how many regrets are created in those moments where emotions take over and we react without thinking. A single word spoken in anger can scar someone for life. A single decision made in fear can keep you stuck for years. A single act done in sadness or despair can alter the entire course of your journey. But if, in those very moments, you learn to pause, to hold yourself still, to not be a slave to the rush of emotion, you give yourself the gift of clarity. And clarity is the foundation of emotional control. Now, this pause is not about suppression. It is not about bottling up your feelings and pretending they don't exist. That only builds pressure that will one day explode. This pause is about awareness. It is about stepping back and saying, I see this emotion, I feel this anger, I notice this fear, I recognize this sadness. But I am more than this moment. I am bigger than this feeling, and I will choose what to do with it. That act of recognition is powerful, because the moment you recognize your emotions as separate from your identity, you take back control. You stop being driven blindly by whatever you feel in the moment, and you begin to drive your own life with purpose. When anger rises, it feels like fire in your chest, like a storm ready to destroy everything in its path. But when you pause, you cool that fire. You give yourself space to ask, what is this anger telling me? Is it showing me that I feel disrespected? Is it showing me that I need to set a boundary? Is it reminding me that I care deeply about this issue? Once you've asked those questions, your anger has served its purpose. You can then respond with wisdom instead of rage. Instead of burning bridges, you can build them. Instead of creating more chaos, you can create understanding. The pause turns anger into fuel for constructive change rather than destruction. When fear rises, it feels like a heavy chain pulling you down, whispering that you're not good enough, not ready enough, not strong enough. It tries to convince you that staying safe is better than stepping into the unknown. But when you pause, you interrupt that voice. You step outside of the story that fear is trying to tell you. And in that pause, you ask yourself, is this fear protecting me from real danger, or is it holding me back from growth? Most of the time, fear is not a warning of danger. It is a signal that you're standing at the edge of growth. And in that pause, you get to choose whether you will let fear keep you small or whether you will step forward with courage. That is the difference between a life of regret and a life of fulfillment. When sadness rises, it feels like a weight pressing down on your heart, convincing you that the world is dim, that nothing will get better, that the pain will never fade. But when you pause, you step outside of that darkness, even for a moment, and you ask yourself, what is this sadness showing me? What did I value so deeply that its absence hurts this much? What lesson, what memory, what gratitude can I take from this pain? And suddenly sadness transforms from a weight into a teacher. It no longer drowns you, it guides you. It reminds you of love, of meaning, of the fragility and beauty of life. The pause allows sadness to shape you without breaking you. The pause is not easy, it takes practice, it takes discipline. At first, your emotions will try to convince you that there is no space, no choice, only reaction. But that is a lie. The more you practice pausing, the more natural it becomes. It starts small. Instead of lashing out when someone cuts you off in traffic, you pause and breathe. Instead of collapsing into fear when you get bad news, you pause and remember your strength. Instead of letting sadness keep you in bed all day, you pause and remind yourself of one thing to be grateful for. Over time, those small pauses build into a habit, and that habit becomes emotional mastery. Think of the pause as the muscle of your emotional life. Every time you choose it, you make it stronger. Every time you resist the urge to react, you gain more power. And just like building physical muscles, emotional muscles require repetition, consistency, and patience. But the results are life-changing, because once you build that strength, nothing outside of you can control you. Not people's words, not circumstances, not setbacks, not rejection. You become the master of yourself, and that is the greatest power you can ever hold. So how do you cultivate this pause in real life? Begin with awareness. Throughout your day, check in with yourself. Ask, what am I feeling right now? When you name the emotion, you weaken its grip. Next, breathe. Breathing grounds you, it centers you, it reminds your body that you are safe. Then ask questions. What is this emotion telling me? What is the best way to respond? What choice will lead me toward peace, strength, and growth? And finally, act from wisdom, not from impulse. That is the pause in action. And understand this, the pause is not about perfection. You will not get it right every time. Sometimes your anger will win. Sometimes your fear will take over. Sometimes your sadness will keep you down. But every time you fail, you also have another chance to try again. Failure is part of mastery. What matters is that you keep practicing, keep pausing, keep choosing. Because with every attempt, you are rewiring your brain, reshaping your habits, reclaiming your power. Over time, the pause will not feel like effort. It will feel like freedom. Because when you can pause, you can choose. And when you can choose, you are free. Free from the chains of impulse, free from the control of others, free from the roller coaster of emotions that used to run your life. You become steady, grounded, unshakable. And that is the foundation for every great achievement, every strong relationship, every moment of true peace. So the next time you feel anger rising, pause. The next time fear grips you, pause. The next time sadness weighs heavy on your heart, pause. In that pause lies your power. In that pause lies your freedom. In that pause lies the ability to create the life you were meant to live. Because emotions will always come. They are part of being human. But whether they control you or you control them, that is always your choice. And the choice begins with a pause. Another powerful key point in controlling your emotions is the ability to reframe your perspective. What often fuels the intensity of an emotion is not the event itself, but the story you attach to it. Every situation is neutral until you give it meaning. When someone criticizes you, you can choose to interpret it as a personal attack and let anger consume you, or you can choose to see it as feedback and an opportunity for growth. When you face rejection, you can choose to believe it means you are unworthy, or you can choose to see it as redirection towards something better. When you experience failure, you can choose to see it as a final defeat, or you can choose to frame it as a stepping stone towards success. The difference is not in the situation but in the perspective you choose. That reframing is the essence of emotional control, because emotions grow or weaken depending on the meaning you attach to the experience. Think about two people going through the same hardship. One collapses under the weight of despair, while the other rises with resilience. What separates them? Perspective. The one who collapses has told themselves a story of hopelessness, while the one who rises has told themselves a story of strength, faith, and possibility. It is the same storm, but one drowns and the other learns to dance in the rain. This shows us that emotions are not fixed, they are fluid, and the way you frame your experiences shapes the emotions you feel. If you want to control your emotions, you must begin by controlling the narrative in your mind. This doesn't mean lying to yourself or ignoring reality. It means choosing to focus on the interpretation that empowers you instead of the one that weakens you. It means asking, what can I learn here? How can this situation make me better? What is the hidden gift in this pain? For example, if you lose a job, you can spiral into fear and despair, or you can choose to see it as a chance to pursue something that aligns more deeply with your passion. If someone betrays your trust, you can let bitterness take root, or you can choose to reframe it as a lesson that makes you wiser in choosing who deserves your loyalty. In every situation, reframing gives you control over your emotional response. The mind is like a lens. If the lens is dirty, every image looks distorted, every event looks negative, every challenge feels overwhelming. But if you clean the lens, if you adjust the way you see things, the same world appears brighter, clearer, more manageable. Reframing is that cleaning process. It takes the same facts but gives them a new meaning, and with that new meaning comes new emotions. Instead of anger, you feel understanding. Instead of fear, you feel courage. Instead of despair, you feel hope. That is the power of perspective. Now, reframing takes practice. At first, your mind will resist. It will want to cling to old stories of defeat and victimhood because those stories are familiar. But every time you consciously choose a new story, you are rewiring your brain. You are teaching yourself to default to strength instead of weakness, to hope instead of despair, to gratitude instead of bitterness. And as you practice, reframing becomes natural. Soon, challenges that once crushed you will no longer control you, because you will know how to shift your perspective and change your emotional state. This power is not about denying pain. It is about refusing to let pain define you. Life will give you moments that hurt deeply. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will test you. But within every challenge, there is a hidden opportunity to rise, to grow, to become more. Reframing allows you to find that opportunity instead of drowning in the pain. It allows you to take control of your emotions by controlling the story you choose to tell about what happened. And here is the truth: your perspective determines your future. If you see every setback as the end, you will stop trying. If you see every rejection as proof that you are not enough, you will shrink into fear. But if you see setbacks as setups for comebacks, if you see rejection as redirection, if you see pain as the soil where strength grows, then your emotions will align with hope, resilience, and determination. And those emotions will push you forward into the life you are meant to live. The second key point to expand on is the practice of self-regulation through mindfulness. Emotional control is not about suppressing what you feel. It is about learning to sit with your emotions, to observe them without judgment, and to guide them with intention. Mindfulness is the art of noticing what is happening inside you without letting it drag you away. When you are mindful, you become an observer of your emotions rather than a prisoner of them. You watch the anger rise and fall like a wave. You notice the fear in your chest without letting it dictate your actions. You sit with the sadness long enough to learn what it has to teach you, but you don't let it trap you in despair. Mindfulness teaches you that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. They come, they stay for a while, and they leave. The problem is, when you identify too strongly with them, you give them the power to control you. You say, I am angry, instead of saying, I am experiencing anger. That small shift matters because when you see emotions as experiences rather than identities, you gain distance from them, and in that distance lies power. Practicing mindfulness can be as simple as taking a few conscious breaths when you feel overwhelmed, or as deep as dedicating time each day to meditation, journaling, or reflection. It is about creating a space of calm where you can process what you feel without reacting impulsively. When you develop this habit, you discover that you are not your emotions. You are the awareness that notices them. And that awareness has the ability to choose. Mindfulness also helps you break the cycle of emotional triggers. Many times your emotions are not really about the present moment. They are about old wounds, old fears, old patterns. Someone says something small, and it triggers years of unresolved pain, and suddenly you're reacting with a level of intensity that doesn't even match the situation. Mindfulness allows you to notice that trigger, to recognize it for what it is, and to choose a different response. Instead of letting the past control the present, you free yourself to respond from clarity. Through mindfulness, you also build resilience. When life gets chaotic, when everything feels uncertain, mindfulness anchors you. It reminds you that you can be still even when the world is not. That stillness is strength. It is the ability to stand in the middle of the storm and not be shaken by it. And from that place of stillness, you make better choices, you protect your peace, and you control your emotions. Now, mindfulness is not something you master in a single day. It is a practice, a discipline. Some days you will forget to be mindful. Some days you will get swept away by your emotions. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Slowly, your mind learns to pause, to breathe, to step back, to choose. And over time, mindfulness becomes your default state. You become calmer, clearer, more in control. The combination of reframing your perspective and practicing mindfulness creates a powerful foundation for emotional control. With reframing, you change the story you tell yourself. With mindfulness, you change the relationship you have with your emotions. Together, they give you the ability to not only manage what you feel, but to transform it into fuel for growth. They allow you to live with freedom instead of being controlled by anger, fear, or sadness. The conclusion of this is simple but life-changing. Controlling your emotions is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming emotionally powerful. It is about learning to pause before reacting, to reframe your perspective, to practice mindfulness, and to guide your emotions instead of being guided by them. When you master this, you become unshakable. No insult can break you, no rejection can define you, no fear can stop you. You begin to live from a place of strength, peace, and clarity. Life will always bring challenges, but with emotional control, those challenges no longer control you. You will feel deeply, but you will not be imprisoned by what you feel. You will rise above the storm instead of drowning in it. And you will discover that the greatest freedom, the greatest power, the greatest strength you will ever have is not in controlling the world around you, but in controlling the world within you. That is where true mastery lies, and that is how you create a life of peace, purpose, and unstoppable growth. The truth is, controlling your emotions is not about shutting them down, pretending you don't feel, or becoming hard and unshaken like a stone. It is about stepping fully into your humanity while choosing to live with intention rather than reaction. It is about learning to pause before responding, reframing the stories you tell yourself, and practicing the kind of mindfulness that keeps you grounded when storms try to knock you off balance. When you do this, emotions no longer become your enemy, they become your teachers. Anger shows you where your boundaries are. Fear shows you where growth lives. Sadness shows you what mattered most. But none of them get to drive your life. You do. And that is the greatest freedom you can ever know. Because when you learn to control your emotions, no one else holds the strings to your peace, your joy, your power. Not insults, not rejection, not disappointment, not failure. You decide how you will rise, how you will respond, and how you will move forward. That is how you build unshakable confidence. That is how you build resilience. That is how you build a life where nothing outside of you has the power to break what is inside of you. So, when life tests you, when emotions surge like waves trying to pull you under, Remember this: you are not your anger, you are not your fear, you are not your sadness. You are the one who holds the choice. And when you choose to master your emotions, you master your life. That is the doorway to peace, to power, and to becoming the strongest version of yourself.